Hey, Raj Martin here from Buildings Montana. Good day. I'm going to go through two short videos talking about a little bit of our natural man and a little bit about God. God often answers our prayers through other people. So it was with Todd Sylvester.
I was born in 1968 to a good family, though we didn't believe in God. In fact, as I grew older, I began to make fun of people who thought God was real. I didn't need somebody else's make-believe God. I was certain he wasn't there.
I didn't need someone else's make-believe God. I was certain he wasn't there. Some things happen.
Crashing down. I'd made some bad choices, and gradually I lost everything I had earned. I'll never forget the day, at age 22, on a Thursday, that I decided to end my life. I sat in the school.
He made some bad choices. His basketball career was ruined. He got in with drugs and alcohol and other things, and it destroyed his career. And he was going to go to a cafeteria, but then something happened, and he was going to end his life.
School cafeteria that day, thinking about how I was going to do it, how I would spend my last weekend on Earth, when I overheard two girls at a nearby table talking about fasting and prayer. I interrupted, asking them what fasting was. One of them told me it was something they did when they wanted help from God. It seemed so silly, but I listened, intrigued. That night, all alone, I knelt down and prayed for the first time in my life. I told God that I was going to fast, that I'd go without food and water for 24 hours, but that I wanted him to show himself to me. So I fasted.
So what happens? He goes without food and water for 24 hours. What's the real miracle that's going to happen here? Is God going to save his life, or have someone else help save his life? Or is it going to happen in small degrees and steps?
And for the first time in 8 years, I went without drugs and alcohol. But by the next day,
Without drugs and alcohol for 8 years, one day.
nothing had happened. I didn't want to end my life anymore, but God never spoke to me.
I didn't want to end my life anymore. Wasn't that a miracle in and of itself? But God never spoke to me, he says.
So I forgot about the whole thing. I knew he didn't exist. I went on with my life. And then oddly, a month later, an old friend called inviting me over. A friend I hadn't seen in 5 years. So we hung out one day, catching up on old times. When out of the blue, he said, "Todd, I don't know how to tell you this. I was scared to even invite you over. But yesterday I had a strong impression from God to call you. And God impressed me to tell you that he needs you on his side. Today." I was speechless. Was God real? Had he answered my prayer? Had he sent someone to me? I couldn't.
Those are good questions. Had he answered his prayer through someone else? Was it a month later that he did that? And he couldn't believe it. But had he? It's a possibility, isn't it? This starts to change his life. Starts to struggle and turn things around. Takes 2 years or more. Starts going to church. And starts to understand that it took a long time for God to work and change with him.
God were to manifest himself to me, that he would come down in a lightning bolt or in a great clash of fire. But I learned that day at the picnic that I was wrong. I realized that it is part of our condition as mortals to sometimes feel as though we are surrounded by darkness. But even though we may feel lost, that God promises to illuminate the way before us, no matter how long it takes. For 2 years, God had nurtured a questioning soul. Little by little, He had given me as much as I could handle, until the day I was humble enough to hear fully what He wanted to tell me. I also learned by my own experience that spiritual light rarely comes to those who merely sit in darkness, waiting for someone to flip a switch. It takes an act of faith to open our eyes to the light of Christ.
It takes an act of faith to open our eyes to the light of Christ. Quote unquote. I've seen and watched this video many times, but I know how close and real this situation is. It's based on a true story. Now let's go to the second video. This video is called Faith Crisis. What do we do when we feel nothing?
Back in 2005, I was living the dream. Oh my gosh, I was living in New York City, and a musical that I'd written with my friend, The Ark, was going to be off Broadway. And I thought, this is my destiny. I could just see my future unfolding before me. What I didn't realize is that whatever is written in the stars is not as powerful as what's written in the New York Times. And we got crucified. And it didn't last very long. It broke my heart. I was crushed. And I think I know something about heartache. And then a year goes by, and I find out what heartache's really about. My son comes out and says, Dad, I can't do it anymore. I'm gay. And I've tried to do everything you said. Went on my mission, I was an Eagle Scout, and I don't know how to get through it. And the stuff that you have tried to tell me about this has not been helpful. Well, it broke my heart in a real heartbreaking way. And
so now he's dealing with his family crisis. And now his faith is being questioned. My son can't get through this. He's done these things. Why is this happening to me? What's going on here?
So I thought, well, I need some answers from heaven. So I started praying like I'd never prayed before. How do I help my son get through this? How do I hold my family together? I just begged God to talk to me.
Now he's begging and pleading like he's never pleaded before. And the answers aren't coming immediately. Again, see a pattern here?
And it was the first time in my life that I felt like heaven was shut. It's shut down. I couldn't get past the ceiling. And I thought, well, this is a little challenge. Well, you think that for a week or two or a month or two. But 2 years, and you start asking yourself, wait a minute, what if I got it wrong?
2 years, it doesn't come. He's pleading with God. 2 years. What if I got it wrong? Did he get it wrong?
Not just church stuff or policy stuff. What if the issue with, is there really a God who hears my prayers? Does he know me? And is there something that I may have done that offended him so he won't talk to me? I mean, this is the stuff that really matters.
This is the stuff that really matters. Does God know me? Does he love me? Did I offend him? Can he get through to me?
Keep the promises when my heart feels nothing. We make all of our great promises in life when we're feeling great. When we fall in love, oh, I feel so great. I love you. I love you. When we feel the Spirit, oh, baptize me. I'm going to live righteously. What do we do when we feel nothing? And we fear that maybe nothing's coming. Well, that's where I was.
Feel nothing and fear that nothing is coming. It's a deep, dark spot.
So I got on my knees, and I'd prayed before a lot, and I'd had prayers I believed were answered, but it'd been so long. And I said, I don't know if you're hearing this. I'm going to quit whining and moaning about this. I'm going to trust you.
I'm going to quit whining and moaning about this, and I'm going to trust you. Hard thing to do.
I'm going to trust that there's a reason that I can't feel your presence. There's a reason that I feel so abandoned. I'm going to trust that you're smarter than I am, that you get this better than I do, and at some point, and I don't feel like it'll ever happen, but at some point, you'll communicate with me, and I'll feel your love, and I won't feel so lost.
I'll feel your love and I won't feel so lost. Have you ever poured out your heart that deeply, that longly, that completely? Have you called upon God with such deep convictions, with such humility, such faith, that you can feel His presence, even if it's in a while, not immediately? Can you hang on and trust that He knows you better than you know yourself?
I hadn't given up hope, but I'd given up trying to make myself feel something or to say, what's wrong with me? After 9 years of this faith crisis, I had this
9 years of this faith crisis.
extraordinary experience. I went into my study, I'm a songwriter, and for 10 days, it was like I got downloads of songs, just kind of almost out of the blue. Because I had been wondering, what's Jesus really like? Did I just borrow my idea of Jesus, or did I really have an understanding of what he was like? I realized that when I reviewed the 10 or 12 songs that had come during those 10 days, that my answer
10 or 12 songs that would come during those 10 days. I'll bet you that's not normal.
about who Jesus was and how he felt about me and how I was going to move forward came in songs. And that's when this revelation that kind of changed my life happened. That the Lord loved me so personally and so individually and so completely that he would send an answer that I would recognize could have only come from him, from his heart to mine. I don't know how else to describe it. I was
Think about that.
overwhelmed with grace. And then I thought, why did this take 9 years? As I tried to process the story that I've been sharing with you, I started to make some notes. Were there times that Jesus was there and I didn't see him? Because I had decided in advance, I know how to get answers to my prayers. And they come in this box. This is how God answers prayers, like this. Every prayer he's ever answered for me came this way. Well, what if he was answering me outside the box? What if there were ways he was trying to give me hope and reassure me and talk to me, and it just went over my head because I couldn't see it.
Think about that. We're going to end it here. I believe God loves us all. I believe he answers us in individual ways. I believe many times it's outside the box, or so subtly or so gently that we miss it. Think about your prayers. Think about communication with God. Think about seeing his hand in your life, even through the great trials and tribulations you have. God is personal. God is real. Sometimes we just miss many of his messages to us because we are sinful, we are ignorant, we're fearful, we're human, and we're often mistaken. This is Roger Martin from Billings, Montana. Good day.